All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mikestand Weekend Edition. We're still waiting on our panelists to show up. Um, so I hope everybody's having a good weekend thus far. As I said, we're just waiting for people to kind of show up a bit here. So before we can get into our discussions, of course. As always, of course, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here. Also, anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to of course, to comment or ask a question. There we go. There's somebody. Hey, Chris.
What's up, man?
Not much. If you can help me out by going over and liking and sharing the stream, if possible, that help. Trying to get the
I'm
word
trying to
out.
find the link. I always have problems finding the link. It always takes me a few minutes. And I know I get a reminder from somewhere, but I don't know where.
Well, I know I sent you the StreamYard link. Or
All right, hang
well,
on, I got it.
oh, okay. Just
Sorry.
go
I
ahead.
have it on notifications. I just had to find it. It was in YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay,
I,
hold on. I'm
I
sharing.
Diana mentioned to me that you guys had a family dinner tonight, huh?
Oh yeah, lots of fun.
Hmm.
uh, all the kids were here,
Hmm.
including my grandson actually. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Hmm.
Uh, he's I believe 6 months old now.
Okay. So that must have been fun.
Yeah, he doesn't do much yet, but he's sitting up and pulled my hair a bit. I was glad I have long hair for him to do that. That was fun.
Yep.
That kind of stuff.
Yep.
My dogs are terrified of him, though. It's kind of funny.
Well, if he's a precocious little lad, I'm sure. It's not just your long hair. He's probably yanking it. He's probably yanking on some stuff from the puppies too. There, right?
Oh no, I mean they won't even get close to him. It's almost like they know he's off limits. Like don't mess with the grandson.
Ah,
Um, and Papa, of course, my son, my actual son, was there. So they all treated him with the utmost respect. We tried to bring him up to him, and they would push away and try not to get in his face. And I was like, that's kind of impressive. They're showing that much respect, but I was surprised too because usually they're very friendly.
yeah.
So are you already live?
Yeah, I go live like about 5 seconds prior to my actual, because as you know, it sometimes takes a moment for YouTube to sit there and activate. So but
Okay.
at least thus far it looks like I'm not having the issue that I've been have that I've had a little bit here the last on a night or two the last few weeks, where when I have both the YouTube window and the StreamYard window going. Like
Yeah.
sometimes the YouTube video doesn't seem, at least on my end, the YouTube video seems to lag. It's like I may go back and I'll see, you know how the red line, at the bottom the red line follows along, and if it's all the way full, it'll stay full. Well, in this case,
Yep.
there, like it happened on Friday as well. It happened, I think, on Friday, Thursday, and Tuesday this last week, where it's like the red line would come up short. It's like the video was lagging for some reason. It wasn't running like it should. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So how's your week this week?
I can't complain. A lot of work on the comic. So it's been pretty good in that sense. I work for a school district that was out for 3 of the last 5 days, and 2 days of that was a weekend. So
Right.
we had an impromptu vacation thanks to weather and local uh, trees falling, things like that.
Uh,
Transformers
oh, did you had a
blowing.
snow? Did you what? Did you have a snow day or something like that on
Oh
Friday?
yeah, three of them in a row.
Oh,
So it was like I just got to sit here and color and draw and write and do my comics. Played some retro games. Tried to stay awake, but my sleeping cycle is all screwed up. I'm sleeping like 3 hours at a time and waking up for two throughout the night. So that's always fun. Uh,
wow. So
um,
yeah. So let me see. What was I just? So the current your current and of course if you want to share your links, feel free to do that too. Share your links in the
yeah, of
in the.
course I didn't come prepared, so I'll have to gather the links. But
But
basically, man, guy, you
as I
shooting.
understand it, your current project is manga guy, right?
Well, it's Mangai Yushoken, and it's manga related, but it's a tale basically of what happens with American kids who are given the ability to basically mimic their heroes, who happen to be anime guys who have
Uh,
been westernized, and the part of the core fun of it is realizing that the West has totally changed the characters from the East, and these
oh
kids are
yeah.
going to discover some of these differences. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. And there's, it's not just that aspect. That's the main plot, the main storyline.
Hmm.
But we're having fun with a lot of the side stuff, and I can't give away too much yet. But I try to make it as dark as many of the animes that I've seen as I've explored. So we're not afraid to tread with demons and monsters and aliens and all sorts of fun, weird, crazy things, while at the same time having something cute that my wife can go, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute." So we're trying to hit
So
on
for
a
those
lot
of
of
you who
levels.
might be watching this on the replay, there's a link to Chris's latest project if you want to check that out. Man guy, as it were.
Yep, man, guy,
Oh,
and that's in sign up. Interestingly enough, I was going to launch this in October, and it became, again, as people who follow me may know, it became such a passion project that it's just I just haven't launched it yet. That might be concerning for someone signing up,
mm-hmm,
but there's no commitment and it's not yet out. So what I'll do is when I do put it when I activate the Indiegogo crowdfunder,
mm-hmm.
the clock will come on. But by that time, I'll have everything done. And the purpose for that is so that we can go into full promotion mode for 30 to 60 days. I think we'll go 60 days, but uh, we have some interesting ideas, such as how much we're going to try to crowdfund to uh,
Mm-hmm.
the the toys and accessories and things like that we want to include. And it really just depends on public reaction. So we'll see how that goes.
Hmm. Yeah. And I know I probably said this when I sent you and Diana the link. If you guys wanted to invite your daughter, because I know she said at least one of your daughters might enjoy the conversation here.
Oh yeah, no. If they were should I say this? If they were good daughters, they'd be here. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, but the
I
point
think when I tell them, because I was talking about this today, and like I get a lot of, oh yeah, that's nice. You know what I mean? Like
uh-huh.
it's like they're like, oh look, Dad wants us to come to his show. That's nice. Because they don't think of it as like Mike's show. They're just like, oh, the parents are trying to get us to come like to bingo night. And it's like they don't understand that it's not bingo night.
Well, yeah, that's just for there's just this is like just kind of a hangout panel to talk all things niche, as you know. Um,
but they're just bad children, Mike. They don't listen to me. I tell them, "Hey, this is cool," and they say, "Well, that's the last thing I want to do if Dad says it's cool." Ah,
But I thought your daughters were into like
they
comics.
are, but they're like they're a different breed of geek than we are. I think like we don't seem to understand sometimes the generation gaps, and they don't seem big, but sometimes they really are. Um, like my daughters, for instance, are all my children really are on completely different political spectrums than I am, which makes dinners really funny because we love each other. So we tiptoe around everything. It's like if you get too
Or
close
what
to a Biden
are
or
your daughters a little more left leaning?
I don't want to define them, but I would say they're not as right leaning as I am.
Okay, I get that.
You know what I'm
But
saying?
the reason, of course, I brought it up was because aside, of course, from your daughters, if you wanted to, let's say, share the StreamYard link with Terry, Mighty Geek Studios,
Oh yeah.
because
You haven't
I
done
know
that?
I didn't mention that before, but if you want to send him the link and if he'd like to join us and hang
Let's
out,
give him a
he's
shot.
welcome.
Let's see if he want. Yeah, let's see what we can do here. Actually, oh, there. No, where is? Okay, I'm talking to myself now. I apologize.
No problem. It's a little
You-
bit harder because I was hoping that there would be a few more people in here already, particularly Janie, because there's been a couple of things I wanted to ask him from the perspective of both fan and shareholder at Warner Brothers. One regarding, of course, Velma. One and the other regarding a situation with the Briscoe brothers. Jay having just passed away a couple weeks ago. So um,
Right.
yeah, so I wanted to. There was something I wanted to ask him, not just again as a fan, but also as him being fans, but also from the perspective of being a shareholder because of some stuff going on around the Briscoes in particular. So
All right. So I just sent him a message. I don't even know if he's online, but if he is, he'll get it, and then we'll see what he does.
and just
Yes,
because
he
you're
said night.
wondering what I'm doing here, I'm trying to get YouTube to stop just taking the view away. You know,
Well, YouTube's a funny beast. I did a live draw stream about 3:10 Saturday, yesterday afternoon, and nobody came. So I only had to do it for like 30 minutes, and then I was like, "All right, I did a sketch. I'm gonna go now."
yeah, actually, I did try to go in there when you were live, but by the time I got there, you were already done. So
Oh yeah,
I think it was like 17 minutes or something like that, according to thing.
oh yeah. I
I
was late, and I only went till 3:30. But I was like, well, if Terry and Rick aren't going to show up and draw, I don't want to draw alone.
hmm,
And Diana had already turned me down because she had to go do some function with the kids, and I was like, okay, I'm going to just skip it. So it
was
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 funny.
there some big thing going on for you guys this weekend or something like that, family wise? Because I mean, Diane mentioned you guys had a family dinner night, and then you said there was some kind of function she
Well,
went
there's
to.
always family functions like in our family,
Uh
but
huh.
the big thing this weekend predominantly was we were celebrating both our sons' birthdays.
Okay.
Both have them in January, but we put them all into one little big family dinner thing this afternoon.
Hmm. That makes
Saturday,
sense.
Diana does so many things. And when I say family, it extends far beyond our immediate family. She's a cousin, she's a, best friend's wedding, she's all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Whereas I'm more like I'll stay home with the mutts and draw my comics and
Hmm.
do what I can to boost other people's views because I'll watch all
Well,
this stuff over while I draw.
yeah, because I noticed, and I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but I do notice on the replay from this past Friday's historical comic retrospect, somebody did come in and watch at least an hour and a half of it. So,
Well, I do come in and like I do it on TV, so like
mhm,
I should try to get it to like because I can if I go through the hassle with the remote. It's like
mhm,
if I go into the thing and I hit it just right and I get it on the little thing, I can hit like and I think I can see chat, but I don't think I can leave a chat on TV. So
yeah,
like I'll go in and I'll watch, and And you and Rick have such calming voices that I may have fallen asleep during it. But that's how I do a lot of my viewing at night. Like if I'm trying to go to sleep, I'll put on my streams and then I'll fall asleep and I'll wake up in the middle of somebody's stream. But it's all based on, I guess, my viewing habits.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you'll show up. There's a thing called, what's his name? I forget now, but he's a mechanic who I just watch occasionally. Vice Grip Garage, if you ever get a chance. His videos are all like 2 hours long, and they're all about him going and buying a junk car and trying to drive it back home 700, 800, 900 miles, wherever it is.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of shows like that.
Yeah.
In other words, in your particular case, it's a mechanic working on a car, but of course, if you think about it, they do that with a lot of like fixer upper and stuff like that. They
I don't even like mechanics at all, but this guy, he speaks with it's intentional, but with a funny character voice, and he says silly things like spark plugs are sparkulators in his terminology, and gas is fire juice, and just the terminology is funny, and when I don't understand it, it makes it even funnier. Is that Mr. Rick Piper?
Yes. Yes, it is. How are
What's
you?
up?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi.
Well, Chris just asked, what's up?
I said not much.
Okay.
The sky?
That depends on what hemisphere you're in, right? Like if you
No.
live in Australia, is the sky really up or is it facing more down?
I'd say it's still up because the ground is always down.
Don't get technical here, man.
And,
Don't follow the science.
No. It's following the real science.
Well,
A lefty
Rick,
wouldn't know how to follow
how's your
the
weekend
science.
going?
Good. And yourself?
All right, just waiting on people. Just waiting, of course, on people to get here, and just trying to, of course, figure out what to talk about because I'm hoping James will show up because there's still a couple of questions I wanted to ask him.
Yeah. Well, didn't he say that he wasn't going to be able to attend a bunch of these at a certain point for quite a while because of job or something like that?
Yeah, but I thought that was probably in March or some of that, but.
I forget when it's supposed to be, so I'm just basing my statement off remembering that
and then
statement.
Of course RJ's not here either, which but then again I know he might be over doing CromCon, but I don't know for sure. See.
Sacrilege! You're supposed to drink Coke, not Pepsi.
it's what's in the house.
But then again, you are American. Pepsi is your colors.
That's true, but I don't think either company is very American-like.
And Rick, of course, if you can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people
I didn't
involved.
hit the like, but I will definitely share it.
What if we just started asking for any people?
The thing is, there are certain people. Obviously, I don't want. That's why I'm kind of more specific. There are certain.
That's true.
And you know who I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, you're talking about.
I would not want on.
You're talking about that guy Tim Olson, that troublemaker.
No, he's welcome. But you know there are some troublemakers that we would rather.
But if Tim's out there, we have to prod him into getting here. So, Tim, I'm calling you out, you troublemaker. Where are you? I better not, because he might take me seriously. We love you, Tim. I'm kidding. But now, Terry, you're a troublemaker. You should be here.
Yeah, I just suggested to Chris that if he wanted to, he could invite Terry, Mighty Geek Studios, if he wanted.
Yeah, I'm gonna invite my one friend Metal. See whether he might want to come.
Yeah.
When you say that name, is it METAL, Metal?
Yeah.
Cool. Glam or heavy or thrash? Do you know?
I don't think it means any of those.
Yeah. So, and Rick, of course, if you want to share your link to any of your projects or anything, you can do that.
Velcro. It's amazing stuff. Do you remember the world before Velcro? Because I do. I remember having to learn to tie everything, zip everything, or snap everything. And then
Well,
Yeah.
Velcro happened to come around the time when I was a kid because basically I didn't learn how to tie my own shoes until I was like 10.
because of Velcro.
No, because one of my diagnoses as a kid was a mild form of cerebral palsy.
So I remember when it came out, and I remember my mom couldn't afford any of it, but all the
Mhm.
kids at school would get these cool like straps over the laces. And it took me like, I don't know, 4 years by the time the prices came down enough that I could get it. And I
Mhm.
thought this sound was heaven. That was, oh, Velcro's so cool. I know it's childish, but I'm just thinking of things kids would never realize. We used to live without Velcro. The most
Yeah,
common.
there's still shoes that you tie nowadays too.
Oh,
You know,
sure.
kids live without Velcro a lot. I'd say still.
But
Uh, uh, uh,
it's in something that they own somewhere, I bet. Whether it's a knapsack or I don't know, something. So there's Velcro everywhere.
well, I don't think too many knapsacks have Velcro. Shoes, yeah, there's a lot of.
Oh no, every knapsack I've ever bought has some stupid Velcro pocket seal somewhere. Not all of it. They'll have zippers and stuff, but like maybe it's inside the big pocket. You'll have like a sub pocket for like your little loose USB sticks and pens and stuff. And it's
Yeah,
like it's that one stupid, I don't know. It's not
I think
stupid because it works, but
most of the ones that I have, I don't think have that.
it might be Canadian. Maybe Trudeau. Maybe he's anti-Velcro.
No,
Son of a gun.
we got Velcro for doing up shoes, even Velcro for the thing on the end of
Well, maybe there's an
sleeves.
embargo against backpacks.
Velcro and backpacks.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah, you
I
can
don't
have it
know if
on
you guys
anything
have.
else
I
except for
don't know if you
backpack.
guys have that up there in Canada or not, or even in up where you're at in the Northeast there, Chris. But I know there are some stores even here in California that they don't want kids bringing their backpacks in.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they have places there too. I try and avoid those places because that and maybe it happens a lot there. To me, that says you think that everybody that comes in is a thief that
Mhm.
has a backpack.
Well,
You
Yep.
know,
there is a certain logic to that. I mean, sometimes it could be easy for somebody to sneak something into their
yeah,
backpack. I mean,
Well, like in some
there is some
towns.
logic to it. Granted, it's kind of a sucky way to have to live if you got to be suspicious of everybody. You
yeah.
know,
Mike, you're not in San Francisco, are you?
no,
I know in California, San
I'm
Francisco.
in Southern California.
Well, don't they have like San Francisco all the time now has like people who go in with like a bag and just fill it up, and people will be standing there going, "What are you doing? Stop!" And they just fill up the bags and walk out, and nobody will stop them because it's against company policy. And they
Fill
might
up.
get charged if the
Oh, you
police
mean
catch
yeah?
them.
Well, I haven't heard I haven't heard too much about that. The only one of the things I have heard about San Francisco. Let's see. What's the best way to say it? Let's just
Eh,
say that You might say that San Francisco is one of the stinkiest cities in the U.S.
yeah, it's a fairly nice place with a whole lot of stink.
Yeah.
The Pelosi's live
Oh,
there.
And
oh,
hi, Mighty.
Hey, speaking of the Pelosi's, did anybody see that video that they put out?
Yeah. Well,
I
I seen
haven't.
it through somebody else, through I think Mark Dice or somebody like that.
Hey, when I messaged Terry, I told him it was the Nike stand, like Nike.
Oh, it's
I
the mic
typoed it.
stand.
I hope I didn't typo that in my shares. Let me see. The Nike stand. Oh boy, that sounds well. It would be Nike to them. They wouldn't even think of Nike.
Yeah. It's actually meant to be the Mikestand, basically my name instead of MIC. But the idea is, bringing in everybody to get a good conversation going. And of course, as always, if you guys haven't already, and I know you two have, you can like and share this thing, see if we can get some more friendly people in here. That'd be terrific.
Yes, stand up to the plate and have your opinion maybe heard.
Well, at least heard. Maybe not
Yep.
agreed with, but heard.
Heard and maybe shut down.
And then
That could
Terry
happen.
saying,
Or debunked. Have your opinion debunked.
I think I'll stay away from the Pelosi.
So I see you didn't go on for long yesterday. Chris.
No, I came on. Nobody was drawing, so I was like, okay, here's a sketch. I'm gonna go now. And it was funny because I went right back to drawing. But the thing was, and that sounds so ridiculous, right? But I was without the company being there with me. I just went back to like the music and doing the book. So
Yeah.
I'm 11 pages in on the third issue. And I'm telling you what, guys, I got to go for 4. I don't see this finishing up. The plot is all there. The loose script I keep having to expand because I don't want it to feel like the last Star Wars movie where everything is switching so fast you don't know what's going on. So there are spots where it has to breathe a little, so I have to add a little bit more. And sometimes it's just the art. Like I've got a couple of splash pages I've had to put in just because I'm like, I like that so much.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I might have to go for 4 issues. So Diana's like, well, why don't you sell the 3 and then pick up again on the 4? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to read because it's a full origin story. It's really a long story for the origin.
Or maybe do 2 and 2.
Maybe.
Yeah. Let me just chime in here real quick. So, hey Terry, if Chris, if you have the StreamYard link, you're more than welcome to pop in and join us and get in on the conversation. So
yeah, I sent it to him.
Yeah, I'm still in the middle of watching your stream from yesterday. I'm about halfway through the 17 minutes.
Yeah, you saw me like sketching. Well, I was late to begin with. And I threw some pre-show crap up in the beginning because I was still getting ready. And then I came in and I started drawing and I was like, well, if nobody's here, I guess
Diana never showed up.
I knew she wasn't gonna. She told me she wasn't gonna. So I was like,
but she said in the chat she was.
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't show up. I was brokenhearted. But she told me she wasn't going to be able to make it. So I was like, I don't even have her here to like kind of counterbalance whatever I'm saying. Like, then I'm like, well, if people do show up, I can't monitor the chat and draw, and it's going to be a nightmare. So I went ahead and cut it. You were off, right?
And I even tried to go in, but by the time I got in there, he was already done as well. So
17 minutes was like a record short stream. But you were at a church affair, right?
Yeah, a Christian singles event.
Yep, and I didn't expect Tim, but I had hoped to see him. And I don't know what happened with Terry. He might have been like busy, and Diana was.
I was busy.
See, everybody was busy.
Terry, hello, Terry. Hello, Mighty Geek Studio.
We should have rebooked it for today.
Welcome to the Mikestand weekend edition.
Yesterday I was running errands and got caught in the snow.
Well, that's no good at all.
Well, we got a few people in here, so why don't we go around the horn here and introduce everybody? We'll start with Chris, Rick, and then Terry.
All right, so we're gonna.
I think he just introduced us all.
This is good. We're gonna introduce everybody now. So, to my left is Mike Walters. He's the host of the show. My name is Chris Tamulevich. I'm a creator of the Great Cyclopean. Manga Yushoken is my new project, and you can see them all at Hero Shack. Down below, you see Cross Comics. He's really cool. He's got Canadian Shield. Do not worry, that statue does not come to life. It's hard.
It's not a statue.
Thank you, but let's let Rick introduce himself, and then Terry can introduce himself.
Oh, I thought we were all going to introduce everybody.
No, I'm sorry. Maybe I should have.
No, I am
He's
goofing.
teasing.
I am totally goofing, my friend. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, I'm cross comics of Rick Piper.
What was that?
I said I'm cross comics of Rick Piper.
Okay.
Cross comics. I cross comics, do some art and all that, like the Canadian Shield here. I have a channel here on YouTube, and I have a campaign that's in demand on Indiegogo for his second book and the first book of another character called Snowdrift. So on to whoever that is. That way.
And of course, if you'd like to share any link to your channel or your campaign in the chat, feel free to do so. All right, Terry, you're up. So you want to tell us about who you are and what
All right.
tell us about any projects you're doing?
I'm Terry of Mighty Geek Studios. Right now, I'm doing various logo designs for companies around the neighborhood.
Cool.
Yeah.
Actually, let me do something here. You sharing a link, I need to do something, and now you should be able to do it. So now you should be able to.
You gave him the power of the wrench.
Should now be able to share your link if you'd like. Share your link to your campaigns or anything like that.
That sounds wonderful.
So you like how
Whosoever wields this wrench, should they be worthy, shall possess the power of Mod.
All right. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about your because this is the first time you're on our show here, Terry? Would you like to tell us a little bit more about your campaign?
Well, it's not a campaign. I'm doing logos for local businesses.
Okay.
That's
So you're not doing a comic right now then?
I'm still writing the script, still working on the script.
Oh, okay.
I want to get that ironed out before drawing it.
All right. Well,
This way I won't have the same problems as Christopher.
My problems are unique.
maybe not, but
No, your
No,
problems
they're totally
come because you don't want to take the time to work in stages.
Well,
that's
he
an
wrote a
interesting
script.
point.
You wrote a script. You're just simply expanding it.
Well, sometimes I expand it, sometimes I ignore it. But the way that I create a comic, like Diana wants me to document it because it's so different from what we hear other people doing. It's so different from the team approach. There are times when, like, I'll do a finished page on page 14 while everything else is still in thumbnails, and it's because I'll get on a roll. And like I won't stop. I'll just I think I'm going to color this after all. Like first it's pencils, and I'm like, oh, I got to tighten them up, and then it's, oh, that looks so good with ink. Now I got to see what it looks like with flats, and then the flats are on, and I'm like, oh, I got to shade it some and add some lighting, and so like this page in the middle of her proof is suddenly like pristine and ready for press, and everything else is still scribble scratch, and she's asking me, who's this? And I'm like, yeah, you can't tell. I haven't really drawn him yet, but that's so-and-so, And so like the process is kind of sporadic sometimes. Like it all depends on where the juice is flowing.
Yeah, actually, you guys for the last few Saturdays, as I understand it, have started up where you rotate onto each other's channels. From what I understand, you're doing a Saturday afternoon draw stream together, where you guys are kind of going back and forth between each other's channels.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be on my channel this week, but I had something else to do.
Are you doing it this weekend, by the way?
No. So,
Who's doing it this weekend?
Well, next week. You mean next week? Am I doing? Yeah, I'm gonna have the show on my channel this coming Saturday.
That means on Discord, right?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He's the Discord master.
You're Discordian.
He's going to convert us all by the time we're done.
Well, we're going to be there, and we'll have some sort of Discord.
But Discord has a lot of options and a lot of features that are really nice. Just to give them a little credit.
Well, all right. So, well, as you guys know, with you guys as co-host at times, I do a historical comic retrospect every Friday. And of course, Rick was my co-host this last week when we went over some comics from Centaur Comics, including, of course, Amazing Men comics. Among the heroes we featured, of course, included Amazing Man, Mass Marvel, Phantom of the Fair, and the Arrow. So, Rick, would you like to share your experiences from what we read of the comic? Whether it's story or art or whatever you want to share in terms of your experiences we were reading it and all that.
What can I say? They were good. They were what they were for their time. Something I sort of realized, and I sort of touched on it in it, was how the scripts were very poorly written for the comics. Of course, that's something of the time, but it seems to, and I pointed out, seems the companies that were making better scripts with a few less plot holes in their scripts seem to do better and become more prominent, like DC and Marvel. You know, we know especially DC. Although we haven't done a lot of Marvel for him, we just did that a few weeks ago. The first Marvel stuff.
Yeah, Marvel
what would
Comics
become
#1.
Yeah, but like DC, I don't think they had too many plot holes, but this last one sort of had all the story. I think all the stories had quite a few plot holes that you can drive a Mack truck through. But it is what it is of the time. The comics were in their infancy, and it's something I think the ones that did strong stuff like that made it through.
Well,
You have to also
sometimes
you have to also remember that this was a time when comics were read mainly in the newspapers.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, like I know, like Dell Comics, like
Mm.
Dell, Eastern Color. A lot of stuff that they were doing were actually newspaper reprints. But
Right.
as we're working our way through 39 here, you are starting to see some more of the comic book companies come. Again, like the comics that went on sale in August of 39, which meant cover date of September or October 39. You had Marvel start up that month, as well as Harvey. But of course, they were not known as Marvel Harvey at the time. Marvel came in as Timely Comics, and then Harvey was actually the first book there was Speed Comics #1, which I think we did like last week. That was the one that as Rick had noted, we had a hero by the name of Shock Gibson, whose color scheme or his costume was similar to the Golden Age Flash. But they were known as Brookwood Comics, as Harvey actually didn't technically open until 1941. But what they did is they bought up some some of the IPs from from Brookwood and one other, I think. But and of course made it part of their catalog. Now, of course, through August of 1939, you had 11 companies doing a grand, not each, but doing a grand total between all 11 companies, 32 books, an average of just under 3 books. And then you're going to have, of course, 3 more companies start up in September of 1939. When I say September, I mean, of course, on sale date. I go by on sale date as opposed to cover date. So just so you know,
and a couple of the other stories that I know had, you didn't see the secret identities of the characters. I think we know them now, but they didn't show it in story, which was
Yeah,
interesting.
within the context of the story, as Rick, as you know, I went over kind of the intro to the characters and we
Yeah.
used the names, but the only reason I don't read the full on, usually I want, like, particularly with like some of the more established characters like Superman or something like that. Reason I wouldn't read the full bio is because
90% of people would know it. Or
well,
more.
partly, but for a lot of the bio, we'd catch that in the story anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd catch that in the story anyways. So there, now usually when I do the intros, for the most part, I'll make sure I hit the note section. Powers, abilities, transportation, paraphernalia, weaknesses, that kind of thing. You just go through that, and then one or two notes that are pertinent to where we're at in the history. But aside from that, there's usually sometimes if it's a shorter bio, like for a lesser known character like Shock Gibson or the Mass Marvel, I might read the bio a little bit just to give a little more. But there's usually not as much of a need because usually you'll see the bio as you're reading the story. As we're reading the story and we're getting into it, you'll get an idea of the bio. So there's
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I just wanted to give you a chance to share your experiences with that, Rick. Since, and then of course, Chris, I believe I have you and Diana coming on February 17th next.
Cool. I have no idea. I basically wait for her to yell at me. We got something to do today. Okay.
I'm assuming you'll join us too. You can bring in your commentary. We'll be looking at on the 17th there. We'll be going through Fox feature publications, which will mean, of course, we'll be looking at Wonder World and Mystery Men comics, which among the characters include. Wait. Yeah, I was like, oh no. So, hold on, let me think here. No. So this week I have RJ coming in. We're actually doing Fiction House this week. And then next week, the 10th, I have Tim coming in. That's when we'll be doing Fox. So actually, the 17th, we'll be doing Quality Comics, which will be like feature comics and Smash Comics. We'll be doing like Black X when you come in. And then I have Rick. The next time you'll be in is March the 10th, actually, because I have RJ on the March the 3rd. So 24th is still open. So
Because I'm going away the 24th. So the 25th, you guys, I will be there for the draw along.
Well, good to know.
Good to know.
I don't know whether it'll be supposed to be my week or not, but
We'll figure that out.
I think we're going to claim it was.
You can make the adjustments just as I make the adjustments whenever I, like you notice how I asked you, okay, are you available 24th? You told me no, and then we just went to the next date. So usually stuff like that's how that stuff can happen. So.
Well, you know what? Well, I'm not sure whether he'd want to. Mighty Geek, would you be interested? Well, if that's all right with Mike, of course.
Would I be interested in what? Taking your spot?
But no, like co-hosting like once a month or once every other month with Mike, if that's all right with Mike.
I would need to get Mighty Geek's contact.
If that's all right with Mike, sure.
Like what I do, Terry, is what I usually will do is, I have a set of co-hosts that I'll like rotate through.
Okay.
And then now primarily I have you come on, to add commentary because we're doing a historical comic retrospect. Now some people like to, like Rick, like RJ, they like to read along as well. So I'll do that. Have you seen my historical comic retrospect? Have you actually watched the show before, or?
I have.
You have? So you kind of know what we do there then.
Yeah.
We're just going back and doing a historical, I'll read the comic, I'll do the voices and all that, and depending about what you like to do about it, if you you can just commentate like Chris or like Tim, or if you wanted to read along like Rick or Diana or RJ, you can do that too. It's totally up to you. All right. Well, I guess is your
He's on Facebook, so
Yeah.
that's how he contacts people.
but his YouTube channel though also has the contact information, right?
I'm not sure.
No, I have. It should have. It should have my Facebook and Instagram, but I'll check and see. So, Mike, tell me something.
Yeah. What?
Are you familiar with House of Yang from Charlton Comics?
No, I didn't. When I did my own personal historical comic retrospect with DC, I didn't get that. I don't know if I got that. I barely got into the before I did it more generally, like I'm doing now with the co-host. I did it for myself, but just for the DC, because one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to try to figure out the entire DC universe, right? I wanted to get it all in my head, all the different multiverses. I wanted to absorb all that information, and of course the way I do it is I went all the way back to the very beginning and just worked my way forward. So I'd go through much of the golden age and get up into about the early 60s, and then I'd kind of kind of puff out trying to do that, and of course I know and of course along with DC, of course I did Fawcett, Quality, Charlton, a lot of the companies. I was barely getting in, usually by the time I'd puff out, I was starting to just barely get into Charlton,
okay.
the Captain Atom, and some of his early adventures and space adventures.
Actually, I'm not sure whether I still have it. I think I actually have one issue of the House of Yang.
Oh, you do? I've got two. I got two issues that I found like 6 months ago.
Like one of the other things I found out at some point later was that, of course, I think Yellow Jacket was one of the first heroes of Charlton. Of course, that was back in the 40s. But I hadn't read anything on that only because I didn't even know about Charlton until the 60s. So it's like, but that's kind of the fun about going through a lot of these comics. Learning all this history. Like for me, I want to know everything I can about the DC universe because that's my preferred unit. Now you have to remember too, I didn't necessarily read comics growing up. I came to comics actually from the cartoons. Super Friends being one of my all-time favorites. So I'm coming in from the cartoon wanting to learn more about the universes. And Terry, as I said earlier, if you wanted to share any, but you don't have any links to share, do you? I mean, if you want to share your link to your channel or something like that, you're more than welcome to. Giving you the wrench.
All right.
So you can promote yourself here.
Well, that's all right.
And Mike, I apologize if I was a little forward in asking Mighty Geek about the whole read-along stuff.
Well, I kind of know him because we have interacted before, and I know I think you're still subscribed to my channel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of know him already. In that particular case, it's okay. But again, be careful. I want to make sure I know people before.
Well, it's only because I thought you knew him well enough. He's interacted. He's on here. That I thought it might be all right. Normally I wouldn't do
if not privately, this would be a good place to usually ask if there's enough of a history there. So I mean, and
I'm just apologizing if I overstepped my bounds.
Well, this time you didn't.
Okay.
Just be mindful in the future. again, be aware of the relationship that
Yeah,
whatever the relationship is I have with the
yeah,
person or the rapport,
yeah.
whatever.
Well,
I guess I should
uh,
rapport is probably a better word, just because
yeah,
relationship that might get a little tricky. People
yeah.
might
Well,
choose.
that's why I figured you had a half decent relation rapport, whatever you want to say,
Yeah,
with Mighty Geek. That's why I even broached the subject.
yeah,
And as you notice, I said too, if
Yeah.
Mike, it's all right with Mike.
yeah. Well, speaking of cartoons as well, before we get into anything, since Terry, since this is kind of your first time here, I want to ask you this, and I've asked this of you guys before in the past too. Um, what were some of your favorite cartoons growing up?
My favorite cartoons growing up went from Space Ghost, My Tour, Shazam from Hanna Barbera.
Yeah, I'm well aware. Those were in syndication when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
Pretty cool ones. Yeah. So Space Ghost, Shazam, and Mighty Mightor.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. He'd put the club up and go
Yeah.
Mightor,
Exactly.
and then you'd have his club was shaking. They'd have that sound they'd make,
That sound.
and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
that sound effect that just.
I only recognize one of those names,
which one did you recognize?
Which.
Space Ghost. Although I never watched it, I just know the name.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
shoot! I've
most
watched
people
Space
today
Ghost
know
through
Space
all
Ghost probably
iterations of the Phantom Cruiser.
Coast to Coast talk show on Cartoon Network.
I'm a little surprised he's never watched it. How have you never watched Space Ghost?
Well, I think I might have seen clips, but or I might have seen the more later clips where he's interviewing people, and that just didn't interest me.
Well,
You got
what
involved with the
Terry is
Coast to
what
Coast.
Terry and Chris are more talking about is the original Space Ghost cartoon from like 1967.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Where he had
I've probably seen clips of it when I was younger. I vaguely maybe remember, but
yeah.
either it
Like
didn't come
when I
in
was
or
watching those cartoons, they were part of the package show. I think
yeah,
it was called the Futuristic World of Hanna Barbera. It
I
came out
think. Yeah.
when
what?
they basically put a lot of those shows together as kind of you'd have where they mix in episodes like Birdman and the Galaxy Trio, Space
Hmm.
Ghost, Dino
Yeah,
Boy, Moby Dick and Mighty Mightor.
Yeah.
There's let's see, Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, the
Oh yeah.
1977
yeah,
Fantastic Four cartoon that Hanna Barbera had.
yeah.
Oh yeah. You mean the Fantastic Four where they had the robot instead of the
No,
Human Torch?
I think the robot came in the '77 series, not the '60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The '77 series, the they replaced the Human Torch with a robot.
Yeah, Herbie.
Yeah.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I probably when I was 6 or 7, me and my mom moved us to a place where we couldn't get cable and you could hardly get any channels via the antenna. So my cartoon watching was limited, and that was for like 10 years. So,
But at this time, Rick, you have to remember at this time, all these cartoons were sold into syndication to a local station, so
Hmm.
didn't
yeah.
matter where you were.
Well, the local station that we had didn't really play them, which was
Ah, that
CHCH. I got most of my cartoons from bigger networks that we
okay.
could get in, but
I see where
Well,
you
yeah,
coming from now.
did Canada have did Canadian TV channels have Saturday morning lineups like we did here in the States?
oh yeah, yeah.
Of course,
Like
you probably had a mix of American stuff and Canadian made stuff, right?
yeah, probably the biggest one when I was a kid was Buffalo 29, I think it was.
Hmm. I'm
So
not
that
familiar with it, but
yeah, yeah. Well, obviously from Buffalo, so that was like one of the bigger ones. We had some Canadian channels coming in, but you know, they had some lineups.
Well, you're talking about the TV channels that would have cartoons. I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about actual cartoons.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Buffalo 29 wasn't a name of a cartoon. It was the name of a TV channel.
Ah,
And, that was from Buffalo.
yeah.
And then, some other local TV networks that would, like the local CHCH. I think it had some cartoons, but not a lot. It might have had some more of the retro, but they had other stuff on it. I didn't really watch it a lot for cartoons. I know that. And then Buffalo was even hard to get in sometimes. So that's where I'd watch like not Super Friends, He-Man, Transformers.
I'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna step away
Uh,
from the computer for a moment.
All
and
right.
sometimes I was lucky to be able to get those in. So
Yeah.
and it's like crud, I can't watch my Transformers.
Oh, you want to know something real funny? I was Yo, shows like Speed Racer and Ultraman used to come on one channel. The only problem was it wasn't in English; it was in Spanish.
Oh,
But for these shows, they would broadcast it in English.
Although when I was at my dad's, I think he had cable. He was in the middle of the city. Um, so I watched some stuff there. I watched the Smurfs, of course, Gummy
Yeah.
Bears.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the other bigger name stuff, not so much the retro stuff at that time for the 80s. Of course, Scooby Doo I loved. I'd seen that growing
Yeah.
up.
Oh, I got into filmation
Flint.
through Saturday morning. Before I was watching the Tarzan Lone Ranger Zorro Adventure Hour.
Oh yeah, I remember all those too.
Now those were fun. It was real fun when they brought Zorro into the mix.
Yeah. I'd like to get some of those on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. But it's hard to find those old ones.
These are the comics I was talking about.
Yeah, I have one of those. I don't think that's the one that I have for.
Or do you have that one?
No, I have a different one. I'm not sure.
I got.
Gonna get like 4 more long boxes tomorrow, most likely. And
I got those because of this one.
the Phantom.
Yes.
And I'm finally gonna have all my comics in long boxes.
Okay.
And then after I straighten up my room and get some things in place,
you finally got tired of mom yelling at you. I was wondering when that was going to happen.
No. I wanted to because I wanted the space in my room.
Oh.
Because I ended up about 4 or 5 months ago, I bought myself a loft bed.
Oh.
So I could store a bunch of stuff under my bed instead of in the middle of the room.
Well,
because before I had a chair that pulled out like a sofa bed, but
okay.
Although there's a bunch of crap on it right now.
I'm sure.
That you can see pulls out like a bed, like a sofa bed.
You say, Christopher. This is why normal people don't understand folks like us. We are messy at times because we have to be.
I don't think I'm messy.
Yeah, you look around and we can't see it. We can't see what you're seeing.
Look at this wonderful room I'm in.
Like I said,
that's not a room.
It's like I said, it's like because we're in the middle of creating so much, it's like we put it aside and start on something else. And then others come in and say, how do you work in all of this?
Yeah. Go get married because they come in and clean up, and then you can't find anything. For 2 months.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm
I'm
sure a
like,
lot
I'd
of
rather be a
kids
lock
did
on my
the same.
office
The
door if
kids
I
know the
wasn't in
same
there.
feeling, right?
That's
to
why there'd
everybody,
be a,
to everybody else, they see a cluttered mess, but you and only you know where everything is.
That's right.
that's why there'd be a lock on my door, my studio.
See.
That wouldn't be very kind in a marriage.
Say, this is
Well, if you
my
want to keep
room.
track of everything you have, yeah, it's
Yeah.
necessary. It's
I would
necessary.
say
The
they're
only,
easily.
the only problem is if you put a lock on the door, the wife is liable to think you're hiding
Yeah.
something a little bit more naughty in there as opposed to just kind of
Hey,
more
I'll let
guarded.
her come in and look. Hey, you want to think I got something in here? Not so nice. Here, look.
Look.
Just ignore the 22-year-old secretary. She works for me. It's all bookkeeping.
Yeah, well, I know we were talking about cartoons.
Well,
earlier.
that would be hard to sneak past her in the house. My
Yeah.
office is in the house.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I know we were talking cartoons about cartoons earlier. Now going from from classic to
We had
gar-
Mike. We had put the cartoon discussion on hold until you came back.
yeah.
We did. I
Well,
thought we moved on.
of course, I want to get your thoughts. Of course, the last couple of weeks, a lot of people have been roasting Velma.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The quote unquote Scooby Doo prequel by Mindy Kaling and company. And this was, of course, one of the things I wanted to ask James about if he's been here, but of course he's not. So, but
And there's one show I refuse to watch.
of course, is getting universally panned by everybody. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score is now, I think, down to 42%, and they've locked the audience score at 6%. Basically, as a number of commentators like Yellow Flash is pointing out, it's not really Velma. It's not even Scooby Doo. It's really just Mendy trying to utilize the Scooby Doo
You're right.
IP. So I mean, it's okay. So and I have to kind of make a slight correction to something I said I think last week. So it's the worst rated animated show on IMDb and the third lowest rated show period on IMDb. And now, last week I said it was the lowest show period but it's actually the third lowest rated show of all time on IMDb and the lowest rated animated show of all time. And the thing was, and of course, they've already said they're getting a second season. And of course, there's one thing I wanted to ask James about because he's a shareholder in Warner Brothers Discovery. But since he's not here, I'd like to get your thoughts on it, Terry. Since you're kind of the new guy here, we haven't heard too much.
First of all, I am a fan of the original Scooby Doo. Anytime you mess with something like that, and I am not going to watch it. Besides, I've seen all the trailers for it, and I've refused to watch it.
Yeah, I think a lot of us who grew up on like Scooby Doo, who grew up on whether it's Scooby Doo, Where Are You, or the new Scooby Doo movies, or Scooby Doo show, Scooby and Scrappy Doo, Ghost of Scooby Doo, and even a pup named Scooby Doo. Any of us who grew up on any of those incarnations, it's funny because here's the thing, and I mentioned this last week too, and then George went off on me about that sounds racist, and it was not an Easterphobic comment. It was just something I had noticed, and
right.
When I'd seen the trailer or the stills of the trailers, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw how they drew Velma, the impression I got from it is like, what are they trying to turn Velma into like a chocolate Easter bunny or something like that?
I know.
Who wants to see a chocolate Easter bunny Velma?
Nobody.
And you get the reference, like, because the way they drew her, it looks like one of those chocolate Easter bunnies you get during Easter time.
Yeah.
And George is all going, well, that sounds right. And I go, well, how does that sound? Actually,
Does that sound
It
racist?
wasn't on my show. It was actually on Lorenzo's show when I brought that up.
Well,
How is that
okay,
racist? That's all I want to know.
okay. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it's my point of view, and I don't mean it as racist.
I know.
You want to take it as that, that's your problem, not mine.
Even though we don't believe George to be an SJW, just typical SJW logic, though.
Mhm.
But yeah, well, one of the other things I noticed even more recently, in looking at some of the stills of Velma,
Yeah.
one of the other things I noticed that I didn't notice at first was they made Velma look thicker.
I know.
You look at her leg. You look, if you remember back to how she was in the original Scooby-Doo franchise, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at how her legs. I noticed. I just realized this too. Her legs are thicker. They're bigger.
Mhm.
Not saying that they're fat. Not like they're like ham hocks or anything like that. But you can tell
It's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, thicker.
Yeah, she does seem a little bit bigger than normal. She normally is. But she still she doesn't look ugly either. So I don't really care about that too much because they didn't overdo it, in my opinion.
Does Baby got back?
No, I mean we're talking more like about the legs, if anything. But even her stomach looks a little.
Well, I like big butts, and I can't deny.
Okay, Sir Mix-a-Lot.
I knew that was coming.
I know you knew. You
I
can
saw
tell.
that coming. But
No,
I mean,
I'm just sitting there. I'm just sitting there thinking to myself.
if you're gonna
I don't
redesign
really
the
think
character,
anybody wants to
just
see a chocolate Easter Bunny Velma. I'm sorry.
right. If you're gonna redesign the character, don't race swap the character.
Well, they did a lot more than that.
I know.
Hey, Metal.
I know.
Hey, Metal.
Metal. I think Rick sent you the StreamYard link. So if you'd like to pop into the StreamYard here and join us in the studio and share in on the conversation, that you're more than welcome to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He just got off his own show, so I don't know whether he will or not. I said to him.
Remember, Rick,
it's
also kind of more of a free form.
Yeah.
Kind of more of a free form anyway. So.
Yeah. I sent him a message back saying he said he just got off his own show and all that. So I said, we're going to be on here till 10. If you want to hop on, fine. If not, no worries.
All right.
Normally he has his show on Saturday.
Let me give you a little present too, just in the event you may want to share something there, Metal. At least, and I may be doing this a little too much, but
well, Metal's a good guy, and he can be trusted with the wrench.
Yeah. So now you should, if you wanted to, let's say, share a link to your channel or anything like that, promote yourself. You're more than welcome to.
And how you doing, Metal? How was the vomitorium tonight? Normally he has the vomitorium on Saturdays, but due to some scheduling stuff, he had to have it tonight.
Okay. And if you haven't already, of course, if you guys can like and share the stream and help see if we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated.
The elbow cough or the dab or whatever it's called.
Oh, that was an
yeah, it's supposed to be like some sort of move or whatever, but they use the elbow cough for the move. The dip or whatever. I'm not sure what it's called. I forget.
Right.
Metal can say what it's supposed to be in the chat.
Yeah. Well, it was an emo. That's why there were little marks around the word there, because on StreamYard it just shows up as the text, and then on YouTube, it's an emo.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, what's the emoji supposed to be? It
emoji.
says for the
Yeah.
yeah.
So
But what he's using it as is different than what it says. He's not using it as an elbow cough. He's using it as something else. And
yeah.
they've done it in my chat a lot. I just forget.
Yeah. Well, and as we were talking about the whole Velma, that was from just the artistic standpoint. But when you look at the writing, what they're trying to do, it's being universally because obviously from the right, it's because they're trying to, push the narrative. But from both sides, it's like, well, everybody knows it's a self-insert, the Velma series,
Yeah.
and she's just not funny.
No, it isn't.
The jokes aren't funny, and what she's trying to do is not what they're taking it as what she is doing. So she's claiming diversity and all that, and it's just not going over well. It's like, in fact, they almost had another faux pas, but apparently that got squashed pretty quickly too. There was thoughts that the girl that they brought in to be Shaggy's girlfriend, or they're calling him, but using his real name Norval in this series. Initially, they were going to call her Scooby.
No.
Some rumors going around. They didn't. Her name was actually Coco, I believe, or something like that. But yeah, there was some talk. There was a rumor going around that they were going to pull that, and that would have got them even more. But basically, everybody's past the point of everybody's past the point of okay.
Well, the thing is, it's so rotten. It's probably going to get us.
Indefensible is basically what everybody is pretty much, I think, concluded.
It's already got a second season, Rick.
That's what I was going to say. It's so rotten. It's probably going to get renewed for a second season, which.
Well, yeah, they already, even though it's
nobody likes it, it's getting a second season.
Yeah, I
know.
know
It's been ratioed to hell and back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing. One of the points that Yellow Flash made in his, so I guess there was an article that came out saying, yeah, Velma, despite being universally banned, had a 127% spike in popularity. And then when
from where
looked into that a little bit,
it didn't have a 127 spike in popularity. It has a 127% spike in people wanting to see just how bad it was.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was basically Yellow Flash's point. In other words, it was popular, but the site that claimed their measuring stick, as it were, was social media content. Basically, in other words, they didn't actually they didn't go with the actual ratings for the show or the critics' reviews. They went based on how much people were talking about it, basically on social media.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about it, not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
All over social media as well.
Hey,
Rex. Hey, Rex.
Hey, what's up, Rex?
Hey, Blue smiling. Hey, Rex, I sent you the StreamYard link on Facebook, so if you want to come in and join us, feel free to come and join on the conversation. And thank you guys for the likes and the shares. Obviously, I would love at some point to have 10 people in here. That's the maximum people I can have in here. So I always invite people. Getting a good conversation, a lot of good back and forth like we got here going on right now, talking all things nature. Of course, we're focusing in on cartoons right now, just simply because Velma is a big story over the last few weeks here since it's premiered, and of course we've got, from what I understand, we have about 3, 4, 5 more weeks of it coming out, and it's like,
give or take.
Flash, you have a lot of people hate watching it. You're watching it just to see how bad
it is. Mm-hmm.
I think that's why they locked the score on Rotten locked the audience score on Rotten, because it's been sitting on 6% for a while. but you would think it would go down even further because the jokes aren't funny, the messaging offends people, and it's just
The messaging offends true fans.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
they decided to use this IP because of the existing fandom.
Well, yeah, it's a classic bait and switch. It's like now this is one of the other things I heard about it too. At least what's being presented in the show, they actually did it with original characters to begin with. Mindy, they actually did try to make an original animated show out, initially with the same content that we're seeing in Velma, and it just it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So they figured, oh well, we have a Scooby Doo license. Oh, and I love the Mindy Kaling go, oh, I love the show. I want to be Velma. And and
If
I
you
want
love
Velma to
Scooby Doo, you
represent
would never do this.
me.
If
You
you
would
love
never
Scooby
do.
Doo,
You would never do this. This is the
so it
last
proves
thing
you
you would do.
proves you don't love Scooby Doo at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the point that's been kind of
Either
talked
that or you
about.
don't know the characters at all.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, one of the first things that was talked a lot about was Scooby's not even in the show.
Yeah.
And then they come back and say, well, this is Scooby-Doo prequel. But then even if you want to go on that, I mean, because in a way you could argue that Scooby-Doo did have a prequel. You guys remember what it was in the late 88,
A pup
89,
named Scooby Doo.
A pup named Scooby-Doo. Right.
They've done a prequel to Scooby Doo already.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not even a prequel because it's you don't even have Scooby Doo in it.
Well, it could be a prequel of sorts. I can't. Yes, we technically had a prequel, but it could be a prequel before Scooby Doo. But who wants to see a prequel of Scooby Doo without Scooby Doo?
Exactly.
Right. Or one that has a chocolate Easter Bunny Velma, or one that has Norville as opposed to Shaggy, or one that has a mean girl Daphne, or one that has a
doofus Fred.
Fred's case, they really flipped the script with it because if you remember, Fred was kind of the preppy guy, right?
Right.
He was kind of the preppy guy. He was kind of like, okay, so when I talked about this the other day on my show, right? One of the times I was covering one of the articles on Velma for on my show for this is how I would draw a comparison, okay, with what they with in terms of figuring out Scooby-Doo's characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way I put it was originally Fred was kind of and I would compare Scooby-Doo to Saved by the Bell in terms of the characters. So, well,
yeah.
Let me explain it, and then you'll know why I made the comparison. So Fred, if you want to draw a comparison to kind of get an idea of how his character was originally intended to be, it's kind of a combination of Zach Morris and AC Slater from Saved by the Bell. In other words, you have the preppy guy, but you also have some aspects of the athlete there too. Fred is considered a natural athlete. Daphne is kind of a combination of Kelly Kapowski and Lisa Turtle.
Yeah.
Even though their parents were never shown, I think in the original series or any of the series, she was kind of like the popular girl mixed in with coming from maybe the more affluent not like super affluent, but early girl, cheerleader type. And then Velma was probably like had Jessie with maybe some Kelly in her a little bit, but
well, I was gonna say more a little bit of what's his name,
Screech.
Yeah, Screech.
Well, Jessie because but Actually, I would compare Shaggy to Screech.
No.
Well, no, I say Screech because Screech was sort of smart. He could make up
Yeah,
different things. He was the
he was
nerd
more
of the group.
the brain of the group.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, but plus a bit goofy.
Yeah,
Or
Well, Metal has a very interesting. Scooby Doo is just a parody of Archie's gang.
yeah,
yeah, I could see that.
But if you guys remember too, Scooby Doo also Scooby Doo did give us a genre that many of us grew up on. You know what that genre is within
The
the
mystery
cartoon world?
solving gang.
Huh?
The
the
mystery
teenage
solving.
sleuth.
Well, the Teenage Sleuth, yeah, but
But
those
a mystery
those
solving group.
those.
Those.
You guys finish it? Can you guys finish the saying? Those
Probably know what you.
meddling,
Those
those
meddling
meddling
kids.
Oh.
kids. Because if you remember, Scooby Doo, of course, was the originator, and then it sparked Jabberjaw, and it sparked Josie
Yeah.
and the Pussycats.
Yeah. But
Group,
And I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids and your dog.
Speed Buggy,
but
Fangers, all these
another
shows
thing.
that came in the 70s where you had a bunch of kids
Hmm.
out with anthropomorphic animals to
Right.
solve mysteries. You know, and
Well,
do it.
let's see. After Scooby Doo came Speed Buggy and the Speed Bugs, Jabberjaw, I Dream of Jeannie,
Yeah, but I Dream of
and a
Genie
few
was
others.
a live action first.
No, when they made it an animated series, they
Yeah, when they made
copied
it.
it from Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Well,
But
in a way, yeah, you could count her in there too. But instead of an anthropomorphic animal in that case, you had kind of a fictional, the genie in the bottle, and then you had the apprentice genie,
Right.
Babu, and all that. So,
but
Baba.
another thing, I look at Scooby Doo now, just sort of on the show, thinking about it. It really taught us something too. You had like you were saying, Fred the jock, preppy guy, Daphne, who's the queen of the ball or whatever type thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Then you had nerdy girl and slacker. All getting along and working together to solve mysteries. It's showing that we could all get along as people and work
Yeah.
together to do stuff. You know,
Yeah.
no matter
Actually,
what type of person you were.
now with the way. Hey, Woody.
Which one is Gilligan? That would easily be Shaggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
But
Scooby
now
Doo.
that you mentioned that, Rick.
Gilligan's Island would have been great as an animated series.
Well, they did it.
Actually, they did do
Gilligan's
Filmation did.
Planet.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I don't count that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you don't count Filmation's version?
I don't count Gilligan's Planet because
Well, I think
all they did was instead of stranding Gilligan on an island, they stranded him on a deserted planet.
Well, actually, I think even before Gilligan's Planet, though, they had a Gilligan's Island. I think Gilligan's Planet may have been the well, maybe not. I don't know.
Did you guys ever see Dusty's Trail?
No.
Oh yeah, I know that
That is basically Gilligan's Island
island on.
in the old
That's
west.
Gilligan's.
They're trying.
That's Gilligan's Island in the old west. I know.
It's kind of funny too.
And it
We're
stars
talking about Gilligan's Island
Gilligan.
there because Jim Backus, who of course portrayed Thurston Howell III in both the the live action and in the cartoon. You guys know what other voice he did? What other cartoon voice he did? Right,
Mr. Magoo.
Mr. Magoo.
Mr. Magoo.
Hey Chris,
Oh,
you gotta
love Mr. Magoo.
Chris,
guy
you
was-
still awake?
What?
You still awake?
Yeah.
We haven't heard from you in a while. I guess you were letting us talk. You have anything you want to contribute to the conversation, my friend?
You were asleep, weren't you? We
I
just
might have been
woke you up.
dozing a little.
Mhm. He was probably dozing and didn't realize it.
Maybe I might have been itching my ears. But I'm here.
I remember a while back when I had Rick on. I had Rick on for one of my shows. I actually had to wake him up towards the end of the stream because he was like,
Yeah.
like
I
Rick.
fell completely asleep.
He
I
fell-
was trying to stay awake, but it
He was
didn't work.
Well, I'll give Rick an A for effort.
But a second or two ago, you were going to say, now that you mention it, Rick, something about the whole working together, the gang, and
Oh yeah, Scooby Doo. What you were? It reminded me of a live action movie. With the way you described each of Fred being the preppy jock,
Mhm.
Daphne being the popular girl, Velma being the nerd, and then Shaggy being the slacker.
Yeah.
There's a live action movie, classic '80s movie. You guys remember what I'm talking about?
not offhand.
I'll go.
He's probably referring to Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
No, but
It's close.
The movie I talked about came out, I think, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years after that.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Day Off.
No.
Okay, I give.
Let me tell you the plot of the movie. So you had these 5 very disparate high school students who were all in detention together.
The Breakfast Club.
Right.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because they had the athlete, they had the preppy girl, they had kind of the odd one, they had the nerd, and then they had the kind of the thug. So that I was just remembering that, and then they ended up kind of all banding together.
Oh, do you mean Power Rangers?
No. We're talking 80s, man.
Yeah.
Oh, so you mean G-Force?
Actually, that's more like late 70s.
Well, okay. The near side, Mr. Magoo. Yep, Woody. Well, yeah. So G-Force, as Rick called it, started out actually as Science Ninja Team Gatchaman in Japan back in 1972.
Yeah.
And then in 1978, Sandy Frank Productions, led by Fred Ladd, decided to adapt it for American audiences. But they wanted to make it a children's cartoon. And this is where we get the term valorization from, because when they edited it to make it into a kid's cartoon, because if you've ever seen the original version of Science Ninja Team Gatchaman or saw the ADV dub of it in the I think the mid 2000s, you would know that it was quite a bit graphic for children.
That was never made for children, I know.
Yeah. I remember
what
watching
they did
that.
when they did it in '78. They quite literally, okay. So if you're, without commercials and all that, if a show is on average about 24 minutes, right?
Yeah.
They quite literally cut out a third of the show. They cut out like 8 minutes of it, taking out all the excessive violence and what have you. Oh, we actually have somebody joining us. Hey, Metal.
Hey. How you guys doing?
All right.
Good. Hey, Metal.
Yeah.
How are you today?
They basically
castrated it for a children's audience.
Yeah. So they cut out so much of it, though. They cut out like literally a third of it. That's how we got the whole 7 Zark 7 segment.
Yeah.
They actually needed something to replace what they cut out. So 7 Zark 7. I mean, I'm sure most fans know this. 7 Zark 7 was not a part of the original anime.
No, it wasn't.
It was added in to fill in the spot. That was fill in the parts that were cut out. So
I remember
watching some of those parts was very long.
I remember. I
Go
remember
ahead, Rick.
watching that.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
I remember watching that cartoon and I loved it. And I didn't mind Seven Zark 7 and all that. But I went to rewatch it a few years ago and I still haven't got through it. I hate Seven Zark 7 now. I wanted to throw him out, that wannabe R2D2.
Well, okay. The thing was again, because I grew up on that version too. That version we know as Battle of the Planets.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they would do that again later, of course, with both Robotech and Voltron. Robotech was basically they mashed together like what they said were like 2 or 3 different anime, Maycross, Southern Cross, and all that. And then Voltron was a merging of 2 animes: Beast Go Lion, that was the Lion Voltron one,
Mhm.
and Dairugger 15, which was the Vehicle Voltron one, and those got mashed together as Voltron. So
Well, here's the thing about that. They accidentally shipped the Beast King Go Lion by accident and showed that first. That's why that became popular because they wanted the vehicle version.
they wanted the vehicle version first,
Yeah,
but
they wanted the vehicle version. They didn't want the Lion Force.
ah,
Someone made a mistake and shipped them the Lion Force, and they
oh,
showed that. They showed that, and it became very popular with everybody.
Well, so I guess it's good they shipped the wrong one
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
Who knows how things would have turned out the other way?
I know.
yeah.
Any
Anyways,
comments, Metal?
yeah, yeah. Actually, I wanted to Metal. If you'd like to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, your channel, any projects you're doing. If you'd like to, kind of say. And of course, I gave you a wrench, so if you have any links to share, you're more than welcome to share those as well. So go for it.
I go by the metal. Some people also know me by my pen name, Malcolm Turzek. I create the series Universe X Dynamis Chaos with a few different stories in it. Currently working on Tour with Mitch and Sandy and Realms and Relics. Fun stories. I also host a live show called The Vomitorium twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays that sadly had to be moved today because of scheduling complications. But I'm kind of busy doing everything everywhere all at once. Too many things.
Yeah. I'm glad you joined us. I hope you're enjoying the conversation. I know we haven't actually had a chance to give you a chance to chime in on anything if you wanted to chime in on anything we've talked about this. I know you did some in the chat there as well, but if you wanted to contribute anything as we're here in the studio,
No, I mean, it's a fun conversation. It's always nice to see the parallels between other stories and stuff. I always saw the Scooby-Doo gang with the earlier conversation as just like Archie's gang, but they didn't have the property to use Archie at the time, so they basically just came up with their own unique set of characters that fill the same role.
Mhm.
yeah, you know what, and you know what's kind of funny about that too, right? Okay. Here now, remember, Scooby Doo came out in 1969, which was, of course, about 54 years ago. Compare it back then with what you just said, right, Metal? With what you just said. Compare it back then to now, right? Back then, they wanted to use the idea. They wanted to use an idea, and they couldn't use the characters, so they went with something original, right?
Yeah.
Today, they want to push a narrative, and if they can't get it over with original characters, what do? They just rip off somebody else's IP.
Yeah, it's almost like backwards now.
It is.
Exactly. My point exactly. That's why I brought that up. It's just when you said that, and what's kind of funny too with what you just said there too is that they eventually did come out with some. In fact, it might have been. Actually, it was a little bit before the first series. Anyways, they actually did come out with some Archie cartoons. I think Archie show itself came out in '68, and then you had Archie's TV Funhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got seasons of that stuff. But But the
Well,
thing
that's the funny
is,
thing too, right? Is one of Hanna-Barbera's most successful shows afterwards was an Archie product. It was Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah.
and the funny thing is, back then they learned the lessons. If something didn't work, it didn't work. They didn't go steal somebody else's property to try and make it work.
Yeah,
Right.
what we were just talking about, Rick. What we were
Yeah.
just talking about.
That I just figured I'd add that to that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, as I don't know if it was Metal or Terry who mentioned it, but basically it's like it's backwards now as compared to back then.
Yeah.
They couldn't use
Very backwards.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as Yellow Flash would often put it, it's like Hollywood these days you fail upward. You get actually rewarded for failure. It seems like, which because if you have the right message or you're pushing the right ideas, then yeah, we'll keep pouring
No,
money
not
into
the
this.
right ideas. The ideas they want you to push.
Right. Well, the right ideas in their mind.
Yeah, I know. I'm just teasing a bit.
Yeah.
It's one of those mentalities I never personally understood, because it's always cool to see like a cartoon you love, and a lot of people think about wanting to work on like a cartoon or comic that they grew up working on. But to me, it's like getting seconds. Like you're like second fiddler,
Yeah.
sloppy seconds or whatever. When I was like, okay, I like the idea. I'd rather just do something original with it than having to deal with somebody's sloppy seconds.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's a
Yeah.
funny one.
I guess that's why I've never really wanted to work for DC or Marvel. I got the idea in my head for my comics, and
Yeah,
same.
Same here.
Metal. Now that we have, because I did ask Terry this earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you this. What are some of the cartoons that you grew up with?
Oh, well, so obviously a lot of this stuff I had to watch secondhand because I'm a younger generation. I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up with still strong Hanna-Barbera stuff, but it was like that generation, Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, things like that. But I watched a lot of older stuff. I really loved Scooby-Doo and Tom and Jerry growing up, since Boomerang was always playing that stuff.
Yeah. Back when Boomerang was cool, and it wasn't just a kind of a cast-off channel for their own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Albeit now they do have some. They do still show like a lot of the older, like Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry, MGM stuff now.
Mm.
But there are a lot of channels that have been doing that too of late. So, yeah, so so actually, this has been a good, Now for me, I'm a niche commentator. I cover, of course, all kinds of niche throughout the week on the newscast, and niche is just kind of what is traditionally considered niche, because a lot of this stuff is becoming more mainstream now, of course. But anime, cartoons, comics, manga, pro wrestling, and I know we don't always get a chance to talk as much about anime stuff because it's not always as much. But there's, obviously Velma's a big story. Another a couple other interesting stories that came out recently too. So the whole issue with that guy, Rick and Morty. Julian, I don't know if you guys have heard about that.
I didn't.
Yeah, I know about it.
He did
I know
something,
about it.
right?
So apparently, he's in court now because he's been charged with like felony domestic abuse, and now and he just got canned from the show that he's pretty much almost everything for the show. He's like one of the co-creators of the show. He's basically he's the majority of the voices of the show. They're still going to try to go on with it, even though he's gone. But they parted ways with him, and even though mind you, he hasn't actually been convicted. He's just been charged.
Wow. And it's his show basically, or half his show. Jeez.
Pretty much.
Well,
you
it's
know?
basically almost all his
All
show
of
when you
his
look
show.
at it from the creative stand. The other creator is Dan Harmon, who is more of a producer than anything. He creates a lot of shows like Community and stuff like that. So it's he's a co-owner of the show, but from the creative side, it's pretty much all Justin Roiland.
Yeah,
So
Justin Roiland. That's the
the
name.
show is probably about to go downhill. And then,
Well,
from what I
they
get from you guys,
have quite a bit of a task because, as I said, from a creative standpoint, he's like the majority of the voice. He's both Rick and Morty.
Mhm.
I guess Chris left us. I guess he's probably getting too tired, but and if I'd known that he was going to leave, I would have given him a chance to outro if that was the case. But anyways, hopefully if he comes back, we'll give him that chance. But so Justin, he create. The thing is that they're going to have a tough road to hoe if they're going to try to, because basically if he was like almost all the. I know he was the majority, but I don't know how many. Like, if it was like 50%,
Oh yeah, I know quite a bit
55%.
about the show. So he was two of the main characters, right, which are Rick and Morty of the family. So, but the rest of the family have their own voices. But then on top of that, he was like 90% of the side characters that would randomly show up in episodes. He would just do a voice for it. And even though there was a storyboard and script for the episodes, most of the humor was improvised on the slot. So a lot of the actual humor and comedic writing of the show is him in the booth improvising as the characters. So you're going to lose like a lot of the flavor that the show actually had.
Well, it's not just that, but considering how what about the casting of all these separate characters, right?
Well, for most of it, you won't need it, right? Because like most of the characters aren't aren't recurring characters. They're kind of like one-off characters. Rick and Morty are the important ones you have to recast.
Yeah, because if
you can't pull that voice off, you're not gonna get it.
What was that?
I said if you can't pull the voice of Rick and Morty off, you're gonna lose your audience.
Well,
I can pull off the voice of Rick.
Most people can, but Morty
Different Rick.
Morty is a different story.
See, here I'm speaking. I've got the voice of Rick.
Well, yeah, but I think we mean Rick from the cartoon and not Rick Piper.
You need Rick Sanchez.
I know. I'm just, joking.
But Rick, you do bring up a valid point about how hard it would be to recast those voices.
Well, Rick didn't say that. I was the one who was pointing it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I said it sort of a little earlier. Well, I didn't know which voice he did, but with the fact that somebody said he did one of the main voices at least. Yeah. But yeah, I think everybody's pointing out that
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it'd be like redoing Futurama without Billy West, who voices like most of the characters in the show.
Exactly.
Although I must say, although it's not the same as Rick and Morty TV show, it has worked because the guy, I think the one for what's Foghorn Leghorn, that universe with, I think that's Bugs Bunny and all them. I forget.
Yeah,
the Looney
Tunes.
Yeah,
Rhode Island Red.
They had to search far and wide for someone to replace Mel Blanc.
Yeah, because he did a lot of the voices. For that.
Mel Blanc, basically from a lot of the older, from a lot of the original Warner Brothers shorts from the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically the two main people who did almost all the voices were Mel Blanc and June Foray. And then I think Arthur Q. Bryan came in, and he was Elmer Fudd, I believe. But aside from that, it was basically all Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc essentially did more or less most of the male characters, and then June Foray would come and do, of course, Granny, the female character, female characters, and Tweety Bird, prepubescent male characters like Tweety.
Oh, and he was everywhere outside of Looney Tunes too. Like he was Barney Rubble. He was in like every show somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my point is, it can be done. It's going to be hard. But
It's
like
gonna
you
be
said,
hard.
uh, like Metal said, the guy was for Rick and Morty is also the creative, on the spot
Yeah,
thing.
he
I'm
was
not.
like both in storyboarding, so he'd be there with the writers doing the initial storyboarding of the show, writing some of the jokes and stuff. But then a
Right.
lot of what actually happened in the show was improv, like redoing the lines and just coming out what's natural with the characters. A lot of times he would record both Rick and Morty's voices at the same time, talking to himself in the booth.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how much, say, Mel Blanc was instrumental in the writing of
Mm.
all that
Well, yeah,
stuff.
Mel Blanc didn't do Mel Blanc didn't do any writing or anything. He was just a voice actor. He was
Mel Blanc created the voice and personality of these characters. That's what he did. Shit.
Yeah. So with the guy for Rick and Morty, they have a lot more to fulfill in that. Well, they
Right.
probably
yeah.
need more than one
Well,
person to
yeah,
hire.
not just the casting aspect, but it's also in the but there have been a lot of people who just called for the show, because if you don't have him there, you might as well just cancel the show. I mean,
Cancel it. Right.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
they're gonna try to continue it, but it's I don't it's not
Yeah.
it's not gonna probably
I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
The
I
diehard
think
fans are going to walk away from it. That's the hope. That's the issue.
and
I
if
think
fans walk away from it, they won't get him back. Even if let's say Roiland beats the rap, as it were. Let's say that he goes to court and he's found not guilty, right?
Okay.
Even if they thought, okay, maybe if the show starts to tank, they think, well, we want to save this show, so maybe we should bring him back. If all that happens, mind you, obviously.
Mhm.
But even if they were to bring him back after if he were found not guilty, I don't even think that would end up saving the show, because they were stupid to prematurely fire him before he was even
Right.
convicted.
Well,
and that's a big criticism a lot of people are talking about.
the question is, would he come back? And what they should do is maybe not even for serious. I'm not sure whether you could end Rick and Morty with him. Just write some script where it ends the show. I've heard of it. I've seen bits and pieces of it, so I haven't seen the full thing. Would there be a way to like one final, maybe instead of hour show to end it?
Well,
hour.
so
1
the way
hour
the show
now.
has like some story arcs and stuff that happen over the course of a season, but it's a very episodic show and it's very comedic. So in almost like a Family Guy way, you could just end it anywhere and it's kind of okay. Like there's always more to be wanting, but also you don't necessarily need any more after each episode. I think they really had two routes here. Is like they should have waited until there was an actual conviction from the trial, and if he went to jail, then that would be a perfectly reasonable excuse to not work with somebody. It's like, well, he's in jail, he can't do his thing, and then just cancel the show there because they can't really have a show without him. And if he doesn't go to jail, just push back the renewal until he's available, like court is over and stuff, because that show gets delayed as it is. I think nobody's going to miss it if you have to wait another year.
Because the last time it was delayed, it was delayed a year and a half.
Was that during COVID when a lot of stuff was getting delayed?
COVID was
I think
one.
Their last delayed was before that.
Was before that. And they were running reruns for about 18 months or so. They announced the delay, so everyone was watching the reruns to catch up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well. Anyway, speaking of failures as well. Going back, kind of to Velma, but on another note here. Don't know if you guys had also heard about this, but there was an interview recently with the creator of Cowboy Bebop.
Yes, Watanabe.
Oh,
okay.
The
The original or the movie?
The original.
The original.
Okay.
not the net. Okay,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the Netflix series.
Well, it involves the
'cause he
Netflix
hates-
series. I know what you're talking about.
I know what you're talking about because he hates the live action version Netflix
That's
did.
where I was going with it. Yeah, he basically came out and said, in fact, he thought of it was so bad that he could not get past one scene.
Right.
It's like the one trailer, the one scene. It's like no, and he even acknowledged in that interview that he realized, well, if I'm not really a part of it, then it's not Cowboy Bebop.
hmm
So I mean, just go to show you that what anybody from Hollywood who says they respect properties, they're
Yeah.
just it's BS.
He was
That's-
offered to do it too, like a Japanese version. He turned it down because he didn't think there was an actual desire for a live action Cowboy Bebop.
Right.
And now he's really like, oh wow, it's got more fans than it ever did. Because Cowboy Bebop was never popular at the time it came out. It kind of built
No,
like a
it-
cult.
It didn't
following.
receive popularity until it was picked up overseas.
Yeah. I watched it and I liked it. This
Yeah,
whole
and
series.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But when it first came out in Japan, it didn't pick up as many fans as it did after it went overseas.
Right. Well, yeah, there have been a few animes out there like that. I know Ghost Stories is another one that
hmm
was now that one hasn't even more
That one
unique
almost
story.
died in Japan.
Huh?
That one almost died in Japan.
Yeah, because it really didn't gain any traction, but it was so unpopular. Now, normally, now granted, we're seeing this less and less nowadays. It would appear, but normally, Japanese are very protective of their IPs, right?
Yeah.
And and so any alteration to their IPs that goes against the creator usually is frowned upon, even though nowadays it seems like they're doing it almost on a regular basis. What a lot of these Western localizers are trying to do,
Right.
but Ghost Stories was so bad, was just not so well not received
hmm
that that the producers basically when I believe it was still ADV at the time, when ADV got the 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 dubbing, broadcasting, and distribution rights and all that, they basically told ADV, hey, look, you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, we don't care. Just and that's how you. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that dub. But
Oh, I
pretty
forced Rick to
dub.
watch it. We watched it
Yeah,
in his Discord
yeah.
all the way through.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Is that one that we watched? Like,
Yeah, the one that felt like an abridged series.
Yeah.
yeah. That was pretty
and they were making all kinds of at the time modern references, like they would make jokes and kind of poke fun and attack George Bush, for example, and all that.
They attacked
Making fun
everybody.
of
They attacked
Crispin Glover's
everybody.
acting career.
Well, the very infamous Monica Rial was involved. She's the one who portrayed Momoko, the one.
Oh yeah.
And you
But we
guys know
talked
why
about
I
that,
say
too.
infamous Monica Rial, right?
Yeah.
From the Vic
Yeah.
stuff. There's actually an episode, almost wholesomely, so it was before everybody hated him, but there's an episode of Ghost Stories where at the end they are making fun of Vic Mignogna
Yeah.
in the show.
Yeah, I think he did actually have a spot on there, in fact, but he didn't actually use his name for the show.
He was uncredited.
He was
under his own name.
uncredited.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think he was credited, but not under his real name. It was like I think it was something like Frosty Lips.
Mm.
That was one of the pseudonyms.
Non-depleurs?
Huh?
Non-depleurs?
Maybe, yeah, but
Pen names, whatever you want to call them.
Well, pseudonym also. That's the same definition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, we are coming up on 2 hours here, so we went a little long, but that's cool. I always like to get the conversation in. So, before we, of course, wrap up, there is one section one thing I do on all my shows, and that's called This Day in Each History. We'll do that, and then we'll close out by having you guys do outros. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves tonight and enjoyed the conversation. I hope to see you guys back here more often. Next week will be the next time the panel will be here. So before we do close out though, today being Sunday, January 29th, 23, let's take a look back at this weekend in Nietzsche history. Albeit it's more like this day because I couldn't find anything for the 28th. I just focused on the 29th this time. So without any further ado, let's take a look back at this weekend in Nietzsche history. First off, I'm going to head back 80 years ago today, as on this date 80 years ago today, back in 1943, from Walt Disney Productions, Donald Tire Trouble premiered in movie theaters on this date back in 1943. That was 80 years ago today. Cartoon pokes fun at difficulties involved in America's rubber rationing, a consequence of World War II. So, Donald Duck, voiced by, of course, Clarence Nash. So on this date back in 1943, Donald's Tire Trouble premiered in theaters. So there we go with that one.
He was really tired with his troubles.
The thing is, they poke fun at all of the rationing that was going on during World War II.
Yeah. Well, there are a number of bad cartoons from that time too.
Yeah.
Over a number of different issues. Anyways, moving on to the next piece of Nietzsche history. We move ahead to 1993, which was 30 years ago this weekend, this date. So on this date, back in 1993, 30 years ago today, the WWF, which we know of today as the WWE, presents its Headlock for Hunger ceremony during a card at New York City's Madison Square Garden, where Bret Hart presented officials with the American Red Cross a check for $100,000 to go toward fighting world hunger.
I remember that.
Huh?
I remember that. That was funny.
The entire WWF cast is present for the 15-minute ceremony, which includes remarks from officials from both the WWF and the Red Cross. And this was, of course, in the same month. Earlier that month was also when Monday Night Raw made its debut as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go with that. And the final piece of Nietzsche history that we're going to look at. Let me see. Oh, yeah. There's a comics related one, of course, and we're gonna head back here to 2003, which was 20 years ago today. Ghost in the Shell 2 Man Machine Interface number 1 went on sale on this date from Dark Horse through its Dark Horse manga imprint. It sold for $3.99, was 40 pages. So on this date, 20 years ago today, Ghost in the Shell 2 Man Machine Interface number 1 went on, and I think it ran for something like, I think it ran for 11 issues.
Yeah.
Ran for 11 issues. So now Dark Horse, of course, is known back. I think they're still known today for doing, kind of comic adaptations of like mangas.
Yeah.
Right.
I know they did Star Wars Dark Empire.
They did that. They did a few other mangas, most of which I have.
Yeah. I think one of the more popular ones, of course, is Usagi Yojimbo.
Well, they did that one, but not for very long.
Yeah.
There was a big problem back then too. Like, obviously, it was great to be able to get some manga that wouldn't have come over here otherwise with their imprint, but back then, and this is something that Viz also was doing in like the 90s and aughts, they would flip it so it would read like
Right.
a comic, and then if you look in, like there'll be words and stuff in the background that are read backwards. That it's not common practice anymore. They just kind of like leave the images as it is, and you just have to read from right to left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
All right.
I think that's where they got into a lot of trouble because Dancia didn't want to have anything to do with the licensing of manga over here, unless they were going to keep it as it was printed.
Yeah. Well, as we mentioned earlier, of course, the Japanese are very protective of their IPs, so we know that. So, anyways, so we're gonna wrap up here before we before we before
Close out the
we
stream.
close out. Yeah, close out. I want to give you guys a chance to outro. We'll start with Rick. We'll go Rick, Terry, and the middle will go in that direction. So, Rick, if you want to go ahead and, as I said, do an outro. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing like this week, and if you want to share your links to your channel or your stuff.
Okay. Well, of course, as I said earlier, near the beginning of the show, I am Cross Comics of Rick Piper. I have a show on Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, similar to this, people talking about various different stuff while I just draw whatever, usually a character of mine. And Saturday afternoon, we'll have a draw long stream on my channel. Also on Saturdays at noon Eastern, I'm starting to read through a comic or part of a comic, depending on how big it is. The last couple weeks, it's just been short enough that I could read right through it. So, if you want to join me in Discord while I read along and make comments, feel free.
All right, Terry, you're up.
Well, you can catch me with Rick on Saturdays during the draw along. Hopefully, we can get Chris to show up on time.
All right. Anything else you want to promote or anything, Terry?
No, not at this time.
All right. Okay. And Metal, you're up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll drop both the links to this in the chat, but I've got my website is xdynamuschaos.com. If you like web comics or whatever, I make a lot of stuff over there. I'm focusing on a lot of stories right now, but one of the most fun ones I'm focusing on is On Tour with Mitch and Sandy, which is a story about two sisters that have a garage band that blow up overnight, and the fame starts basically backfiring on them, and they have to fight physically industry talent and stuff. So it's going to be really fun. It's going to be like a kind of like a Scott Pilgrim-esque style story about just coming of age and stuff of two girls. And then we also, if you like shows similar to this, I do a show called the Vomitorium twice a week on every Saturday and Wednesday.
And if you would like to share your link to your channel again, so that people have access to it, and yeah,
That's very easy to find with the new at system. It's at the Vomitorium Live. So.
All right. So, and now for me here to finish things off. So, as everybody knows, you can catch me 6 nights a week. Sunday nights here with my friends here, our panels. You never exactly know who exactly will show up, but we promise to have a very good conversation. Sometimes it'll be about cartoons, sometimes it'll be about anime, sometimes it'll be about comics, sometimes it'll be about pro wrestling, sometimes about manga, or any mix of the assorted niche. So hope and then of course Mondays and Thursdays is our nightly niche newscast where we read articles. Usually we'll read articles from CBR or getting into comics, getting caught up on all the latest news and in the world of niche. Of course, Mondays we've been going over the weekly releases from DC and Marvel, so you guys might want to come check that out you're into that, or at least see what you'll have to look forward to when you go into your local comic book stores. And then on Fridays, we do a historical comic retrospect where we, of course, look back at comic history. We're doing kind of a deep dive into, right now, of course, we're working our way through August of 1939, books that went on sale. Rick was with me this past Friday. This week, RJ will be joining me this Friday as we look at Fiction House publications. Specifically, I believe it'll be Jungle Comics. I think it's either 9 or 10, one of the two. Of course, the features we'll be reading through will include Sheena of the Jungle and the Weird Stories of the Supernatural, The Secrets of Dr. Hayward, among others that we may find. So I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow and every night. As we hear 6 nights a week for everybody. To keep up on niche news and history and all that. And with that, I bid everybody goodbye and adieu. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
See ya.